Alrighty, here's the Explorer. We're going to be putting spring hangers in and the floor jack all ready to go. And no better time than the present. Let's get started. Roll this floor jack underneath. And the adapter came from Harbor Freight. I bought for it. It's just the floor jack actually come from Harbor Freight, but I bought this adapter, which at times it's handy. But if you don't have an adapter for your floor jack, just grab it right underneath the pumpkin in the rear end to start with. And we want to get it jacked up fairly high, because what we need to do is let the axle rest down that is still not touching the ground, but there's no support of the vehicle on it, so we can gradually let the rear spring hangers down and remove them later on in the project. Okay, that should be about close enough. And we're going to take here and slide the jack stand under the in front of the front spring hanger and use the frame for support. Again, you can't, like if you're working on brakes or something, yeah, myself included, you just want to put the jack stand under the axle, but that won't work in this situation with what we're doing working on these springs. Okay, get that one placed in pretty much the areas where we want it. Here we'll show you a close-up where I have it supported. Like I say, as long as your frame's good and solid where this is, it'll work. And we'll go here and stick one underneath the passenger side. And just like on the driver's side, I'm going to put it right in front of the front spring hanger underneath the frame. And you can see, yeah, they're lined up pretty much straight across from each other, the stands. And it's time now we can go let this down. And there we are back at the jack again. And I'm going to watch when you let this down. There it's resting carefully down on the jack stands. And right about now, our jack is just about ready to let the axle drop. And there the axle's hanging freely and the tires are off the ground. Not by much, but as long as they're off the ground and you can remove the tires and wheels, it'll give you more freedom of movement. You could probably do it with the tires and wheels left on, but in my case, like I say, just using the jack, I don't want to take and have to jack it higher, so with the tires and wheels off of it, it'll give you plenty of room to move the axle up and down if you need to. And there again is our jack stands all in place. Okay, now we're ready for the next step. We're going to take here and go start pulling the tires and wheels off. That's a simple step. I'm doing the one here on the driver's side first. Probably the center cap off. But of course, and grab our cordless impact wrench and zap these lug nuts off. Alright, now that we got the tires and wheels off, we want to spray up the spring hanger nuts here and let the stuff start soaking. Never can have too much penetrating lubricants. There, those are sprayed up good, and we'll just repeat here on the ones on the driver's side of the vehicle. Now it's time to get serious. Have the breaker bar here and the socket and see if these will turn loose, which they more than likely probably will. Yep, they're turning loose, but there will be a problem here in the future coming up on this. And of course, just as usual, counterclockwise to loosen, which is what we're doing right now. this when I bought them nut turned off the lower part of the hanger. And now we're going to take here and slide the jack under for supports before we take the bolts out, which isn't going to be probably anything cut and dry, but perhaps we'll see what happens. Oh, and before we proceed, here is the new hangers I bought, and they do come with bushings, which is going to be something here to play a part. I'm just looking, and they do look the same. And again, new nuts, bolts, and bushings come supplied with them. And now we're going to try to take out these old bolts. This is where the new bushings and that will probably have a purpose. And as you see, the bolt's not coming out. We're sledging and sledging with the hammer, and it's not even, other than knocking a lot of rust loose, even trying to move, which just isn't uncommon on doing spring hangers. Alrighty, that's enough of that foolishness. We're going to take the angle grinder and cut the bolt. First cutting between the outside of the spring hanger and the bushing in the spring. It's like, say, wear gloves, wear safety goggles, but yeah, I'm sort of getting, you see where we were getting with the hammering on it, so let's just do it this way. Alright, I think you're about through. See if it'll come off here. I'm going to take and hit it with the hammer. And no, not quite yet. Going to have to cut some more on it here. And this way, I can see it moving some, but it still isn't quite ready to break free. Alrighty, and you see what I am wearing doing. This is a full face shield. And here, let's just go take and cut on it some more. Alrighty, and stop grinding here once. I think it's there this time. Now let's yep, mission accomplished on that. Now we have to cut between the hanger on the inside part of the hanger and the bushing in the spring, and same as doing on the outside edge, and same deal. It's not the fastest process, not the slowest, but under the current situation, it probably is about the only alternative, and it will do the job. The other thing that I have done in the past is you can use a sawzall, but these grinder blades, get them at Harbor Freight, are cheaper than the sawzall, and it is faster. I do want to mention, grinder did want to catch a little. It will catch right there. You can see it kick some. So again, use caution doing this. And I think the biggest problem right now, my grinder cutter wheel's getting a little small, and I'm soon going to have to go change it. It's not quite wide enough to reach up into where I need to cut the bolt, but I'm going to try to get a little bit more usage here before switching grinder wheels. Alright, I'm going to try prying here with the crowbar and see if it is ready to break free. Probably not quite yet. It don't appear that way. I'm just bending the old spring hanger, and still it's fastened, so we're going to have to take and do some more cutting. crowbar routine. It looks fairly close, but not close enough. Again, I guess even though as rusty as the bolt is, it was a good case-hardened bolt in this day, and it's not ready just to give up. And now we're going to hit on the head of the bolt some with the hammer. If all else fails, hit it with the hammer, but no go. So here we're going to the grinding away. It's soon got to be ready to go. Alrighty, there's what we're talking about. That's broke free on that one. Now just do the same thing on the passenger side after an unsuccessful attempt at trying to knock it back out, but you see how that's working. Alrighty, it's smoking hot. You can see that. Now I'm going to get this off. I'm going to hit the outside of it with the hammer. Now that time we cut it enough. Even with the tailpipe in my way, it didn't take much swinging. Yeah, that's sort of a pain on the right side of this is the tailpipe. Okay, now that we got the lower bolts taken care of and nuts, now it's time for the upper spring hanger bolts and nuts. And I'm going to start here on the one on the driver's side, left side, and there it's turning free. This isn't as bad, a little bit more protected, I guess, from the weather. It's turning easier, although I'm still using the 3/4 inch drive ratchet to get the power grass started. Alrighty, it looks all but off. See if it'll turn off, and not quite finger tight. I might as well forget that. I've tried that on every one, and we can just take here another turn or so with the ratchet, and now I think it will turn off. Yep, just with the thumb and index finger after a good bit of brute strength on it, and there it is. And there is another one off. This one, I didn't show it. I tried knocking this one out with the hammer, and same deal was the lower one, and you don't even have much swing at this upper one, so we're just taking and cutting it off just as we did with the lower hanger bolts. Alrighty, mission accomplished on half of it. Now we just got to cut on the inside, which isn't as easy to get to up between the frame, but there is enough room with the spare tire taken off. Which honestly, this old Explorer, it did have the spare tire hanging underneath of it, but it hasn't been under here in a long time. That cable long since rusted and broke off that held the spare tire up in place. Alrighty, still not ready to go yet, so we were going to take here and do some more grinding. Away we go again. And for useless information, if you noticed how I was hammering at that upper part of the spring hanger and bent that metal back, that helps you get in closer with the grinder well. That's one of the reasons, besides trying to hope the bolt break loose there, I was bent that back with the hammer. Alright, number 3 is taken care of, and one springer off completely, and there it is after all the work to get it off. And here we're going to take and remove the upper nut on the one on the right side of the Explorer with the 3/4 inch breaker bar again, just like the other ones. Okay, this one we have a surprise coming. I actually have to hold the back of the bolt to turn it because it just wanted to spin around, which means I do believe with a little luck, get the nut off here. There's the nut. And check this out. And the bolt is actually, looks like it is. It's coming out. So this is one that won't be have to get cut with the angle grinder. And that'll save work. At least, not bad. 1 out of 4 came. 2 out of 4 would have been better. All 4 would have been great, but hey, we'll take it. And there is the spring hangers off. There was the worst one that was on the right side of the Explorer, the rustiest one of the two. That was the one I was getting concerned about. The one on the drivers or left side, but it went for a while yet. But since I was doing it, of course, on the other hand, after beating and pounding on it, the driver's side one doesn't look so swift anymore either. But there they are in all their rust and glory. Oh, and it's worthy of mention, the new spring hangers come as a pair anyhow. Okay, now we're going to have to take in, remove these old bushings that the bolts are stuck in. Like I say, in theory, if you have one that the bolt would have came out and you want to go, you could probably reuse the bushing, but there isn't much choice in this matter. And I'm using a ball joint tool. This is Harbor Freight. I will include a link in the description. And I guess start pushing it on out from the leaf spring. Okay, I'm going to have to take and loosen it back up. You can just tell I was getting too much tension on the tool. I didn't want to strip the tool out or break it. And we're going to take it back off here and get a fresh bite on it. It just wasn't good and centered that it was giving a good push out with the bushing out of the leaf spring. Alright, and I'm going to end up taking it the whole way back off. It's starting to come. That's what I was feeling around with my finger, but it's not really coming how I want. I had sprayed these once, but we're going to spray them up some more that has started out and hopefully get some of that rust to break free. Again, I do not want to break the tool. I've had this tool a couple of years and used it with ball joints and bushings. Don't really want to break it today. And here we're going to put it back on and try our luck now with it. Alrighty, you can hear there and see it's starting to turn easier, although I'm going to have to take and back it off again, but it was starting to, I could feel it starting to budge. Okay, get it back off here, and we're going to try something else on the rest of this. And when you're doing this, which you'll see coming up, you're only getting the center of the bushing out with the setup here you're using. Because like I say, then once we get the center where the bolt is stuck in out, and the rubber will basically come out then. The outer layer of it will be taken care of in a little bit there. Okay, the other plan here is simply going to take this deep socket and put it in where the bushing was. And see, once now we're going to put the tool back up in place and using the socket, see if we can get that pushed the rest of the way out, because it wasn't doing it before. And hopefully this will give the extra reach to push it the whole way through. you can see the socket is definitely doing what it's supposed to do. You can see it coming out the spring hanger now. I mean leaf spring, and we pretty much have this one taken care of. It's turning easy now, and progress is being made at this stage. Ready, that is out. Now take the tool off and we can get going here, except there's going to be one little small problem, but it's not hard to alter. Is the socket that we use stuck in the bushing, but simply take the 3/8 drive ratchet. It was a 3/8 drive socket, and just turn it and it's coming out. It wasn't really that stuck, and that's out of our way. Now we just got to get rid of the rubber in there, which shouldn't be too big of a deal. We can take here the chisel and a hammer, and we're just going to take and hit, and it's out. Ready. One good turn deserves another. Let's get the one on the right side spring, the bushing out of it, and we'll be set to go on the lower ones. I sprayed it up extra good this time, and back to the ball joint tool that we were using, and we're going to do the same as the driver's side. This is probably the hardest part of using this tool, is just getting it started on. It's sort of a lummoxy, lopsided when you're trying to hold it up above your head and start it, but once you get it aligned good, once you torque it up some and it holds in place, then it works pretty good. Just look at that. That one's already coming out. Didn't even have to use the socket. This one wasn't never as stubborn as the one on the left side of the old Explorer. And this is, like I say, no problem whatsoever. This is almost the proverbial textbook perfect. As you look at that, there's the bushing along with the rubber part of the bushing all at the same time. Now we're going to take, before we get the outer part of these bushings, going to take and remove the upper ones on the where the spring hangers were fastened to in the frame. Or should I say just where the one bolt we had to cut, because the other one, if the bolt came out, I'm not going to tamper with it any. And as far as the vehicle you're working on, your situation maybe even if the bolts come, your bushings are bad, you want to replace them, or maybe you'll get lucky and all the bolts come and you choose not to replace any. Not all situations are going to be the exact same, by no means. Although hopefully from watching this video it'll give you ideas on how to overcome the problems when they do arise. And if you don't have as many troubles, well, your job will be easier, or you could perhaps have more. But this is probably one of the rustier, harder ones you're going to come across. On the subject of that upper bushing in the frame, it's time to go work on it. And I'm going to try here to take a little, it's a 10mm socket, and push right in the center, because if you remember when we looked at those new hangers, it only comes on the upper bushing with the center part, not the outer part. And I don't want to go and search a bushing right now. I just want to get this out and be able to utilize the rest of this and make work what came with the spring hanger kit. Alrighty, our tool's all set up, and here we start turning on the ratchet again, and another one to do. Oh, and if you notice, I'm working on the inside of the frame on this upper one, because from the outer side you never get the tool one because of the quarter panel of the vehicle. There's not enough clearance. Alrighty, got the tool back off, and it's almost out. I'm going to grab it here from the outside of the frame with a pair of vice grips, and just with some manipulation with turning the vice grips back and forth, it's going to come right out of there. And there it is. There you can see where we cut the bolt with the grinder. And now we're going to use the Sawzall and get rid of the outer layer of these lower bushings. Now the objective is to take the Sawzall and cut across that outer layer of the bushing, split it, and then after it's split, should be able to work around with the chisel and break it free from the leaf spring itself. Yeah, this is one reason I didn't use the reciprocating sawzall, whatever you want to call it. Reciprocating saw is the proper name to cut those spring hanger bolts, because it isn't the fastest. That nice cordless sawzall, I've had it for years. It's not up to the power it used to be. Now I want to take a chisel where we cut and see if we can work between the spring and the bushing and start to get some movement out of it. And also, to start with, I'm using a fairly fine chisel to hopefully get a start to get it to pull back away, and then I'll go into a bigger chisel. It isn't helping any. I can see my blades getting dull in the sawzall, and last one I have on hand, and it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Everything closes at 5 o'clock. It takes me about 15 minutes to run to town. We're going to make it happen, and we're going to do the bigger chisel and see if we can. It's starting to do what we need it to do. It's starting to break free. That's where I was earlier. If you watched there, I felt around the other side of the spring. It's moving some. It's about going to soon take off and do what it's get it out of this spring and be done with it. And every time working on an old car, if all else fails, you can't go wrong with the hammer and chisel. What can I say? It's the #1 rust fighter. And here we're back to our larger chisel. Like I said, we have 3 different chisels. We have that fairly small one, a medium-sized one, and then this is my large one on the project. When I do believe it's starting to move, this is going to be the one to get the honors. Probably going to get the job done. Alright, I'm going to switch sides here. I feel it's sort of starting to move this way some, but I think the problem with my duller blade and the reciprocating saw, the outer edge, it's not sawing the whole way out, and with the quarter panel, I just cut the saws this side of it, but I can't, so we're going to work with the chisel some. And we met. And when it came with vengeance. Now we'll get to do the same thing over on the right side as we did before. Uh-oh, my battery's going dead, but I'm about through. I'm going to try to make it. I have another battery, but I don't think I had forgot to charge it earlier. It's on the charger now, but I didn't charge it till just about 15 minutes ago. Spray this up. You can, as I've discussed, can't go wrong with penetrating lubricant. Alrighty. As in all my videos, I try to be thorough. If you get bored at a particular step or you know all you need to know, you can just fast forward. And I always been putting timestamps in the description. And we're going to start hitting on this now with the large chisel. It seems like we're starting to make some progress, more than what we were on the other one at a faster pace. Alrighty, after this one's removed, this concludes everything except for putting it back together. Because if you remember, the upper one on the right side, the bolt came out, and I'm not going to tamper with it. I'm going to just let it alone. And here I'm going to have to take and use the reciprocating saw, split it some more, and hit it with the chisel. But reassembly is going to be in another video. It'll include installing these bushings and putting the hangers back on. So be sure to keep ready for the next video in the series. And as true always, thank you for the people that support the channel, subscribed, and any new people that like this or any of the other videos. I'd appreciate at least a like or a subscription, and constructive criticism is always welcome. And now if you look, this is coming out for a downhill stretch, just a few more hits with the hammer and it will be out of the spring. And needless to say, getting this apart and ready for reassembling is not any too soon for myself. This was sort of a surprise when I went to run it this winter from sitting over the summer. I knew they were getting thin, but they were still was a whole piece, but that one had the hole, and haha, there it is. And we are done for this video.